You've seen it, right? A huge organization, maybe a company, maybe even a government agency, and it's just hopelessly stuck in its ways. But have you ever stopped to wonder how those deep-seated, sometimes really dangerous habits actually get changed? I mean, what does it really take to turn that massive ship around?
Yeah, it's a feeling we all know. You see a problem, you see a way better way to do things, but you just hit this brick wall of resistance. It feels like the entire system is designed to just keep doing the same thing over and over, even when it's obviously not working. Well, that's really the heart of what we're digging into today. And it's a little unsettling. But the truth is, sometimes the only thing powerful enough to actually shatter those old routines is a full-blown crisis. So we're going to look at two really powerful stories that prove this exact point. Okay, so our first case study takes us right into a super high-stakes environment, a hospital, where a toxic culture and this kind of unspoken agreement between the staff led to an absolutely unthinkable tragedy. Let's take a look at what was going on at Rhode Island Hospital. So this place wasn't just a tough place to work, it was a place of actual fear. Nurses genuinely felt like they were disposable, and the number one unwritten rule of the entire hospital was you never, ever contradict a doctor. To just survive the day, they developed this really fragile truce, an unspoken deal to not rock the boat. They even had a secret color-coded system just to warn each other about which surgeons were in a bad mood. You know, the jerk doctors. This was a culture that put egos way ahead of patient safety. So then, in 2007, this culture gets put to the ultimate test. An 86-year-old man is rushed in. He needs emergency surgery for a brain bleed. A nurse, just doing his job, notices a critical piece of information is missing from the paperwork. It doesn't say which side of the head to operate on. I mean, this is the moment, right? This is where the system is supposed to catch the error. But it didn't. When the nurse pointed out the missing information, the surgeon just got angry, totally defensive. He snapped back with this quote, "I'm going to save his life." It was a total shutdown, a message that said, "My authority is not to be questioned." And this is the absolutely heartbreaking result. The hospital's culture had basically taught the nurse that the surgeon always wins. So he backed down. The surgeon went ahead and operated on the wrong side of the man's head. The patient never woke up. He died 2 weeks later. Just a completely preventable tragedy, born from a toxic, broken routine. Now you might be thinking, that's just a one-off and isolated case. But this kind of thing isn't unique to medicine at all. We see the exact same patterns in a totally different industry, the London Underground, in the tragic story of the King's Crossfire. See, back then, the London Underground was basically ruled by what people called the Four Barons. These were these powerful, totally separate departments, engineering, operations, and so on, and they fiercely protected their own turf. They didn't talk to each other, they didn't collaborate, and everybody was taught one thing: stay in your lane. A ticket collector, for instance, would never dream of reporting a fire hazard because that wasn't his job, that was someone else's department. And this culture, this stay-in-your-lane mentality, it created a deadly chain reaction. It all started with something tiny. A passenger saw a burning tissue on an old wooden escalator. A worker came, put it out, but didn't look any further. Why? Because investigating wasn't his job, and he didn't want to step on any toes. But underneath the escalator, hidden flames were growing, feeding on decades of grease and layers of old paint. And then, all that heat became so intense that it erupted in a deadly flashover, basically a superheated ball of fire that just exploded up into the ticketing hall. 31 people lost their lives that day. Just a devastating, and again, entirely preventable human cost. And you can trace it directly back to an organization's refusal to break its own dangerous habits. So here's the crucial point, right? Both of these terrible tragedies created this intense public crisis, and that crisis acted like a powerful jolt to the whole system. It created an opening, a moment where real, lasting change that was impossible before, could finally happen. And the difference was like night and day. At the hospital, all the bad publicity gave the administrators the leverage they needed to finally force through mandatory checklists and video monitoring in the operating rooms, stuff the staff had fought against for years. In the London Underground, the public outcry was used to completely clean house, fire the old guard, and rewrite the rulebook from scratch. The new number one priority for every single person, from the ticket collector to the chief engineer, was passenger safety. The crisis made the unthinkable mandatory. So, what's the big lesson here for anyone who's trying to create change? Well, this whole dynamic gives us a really fantastic way to think about it, almost like a playbook for any leader who finds themselves in the middle of a crisis. Okay, so first, I want you to think of an organization's culture, all its routines and unwritten rules, as a big block of cold, hard clay. When it's like this, you can push on it, you can poke at it, but you're not going to change its shape. It's rigid, it's resistant, it's just stuck. Now, the crisis, the wrong site surgery, the deadly subway fire, that's the furnace. It applies this intense heat and pressure, and all of a sudden, that hard, cold clay becomes soft. It becomes malleable. It's ready to be reshaped. For just a brief moment, everything that was totally fixed is now fluid. And this right here, this is the most important part. A smart leader recognizes that this is their moment. Their job is to seize that opportunity, to reach into that furnace and to reshape the organization's habits into something safer, something smarter, something better, before that window of opportunity closes and the clay hardens all over again into a new shape. And that really just leaves us with one last question to think about. What are the unwritten rules where you work or in the organizations you're a part of? What fragile little truce exists just to keep things peaceful? And more importantly, what might it finally take to change it for the better?